Hey there. So today I want to do a video um, on the topic, or the question rather, of why don't I feel worthy? You could also say, why do I feel worthless? But often I find that it's not everyone that feels completely worthless, but it's the problem that a lot of people feel they aren't worthy of the best things in life, or worthy of good things even, that they accept, if not absolutely bad things, mediocre things in people, and kind of get used to that. But that being said, this video is inspired by reading the comments of a blogger on a forum who, was writing at length about, well, not at length, but writing about why they felt sort of worthless, why they felt they had low self-esteem. And as someone who has suffered from low self-esteem and feelings of worthlessness myself, as someone who has been severely depressed myself in the past, I felt that I could speak to why I think feelings of worthlessness arise. And then also, as someone who has greatly overcome these feelings of worthlessness, depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, someone who's drastically overcome them and actually has conquered them in a way that I could never have imagined, I also have some thoughts and ideas on how to overcome feelings of worthlessness. And again, this might not be everyone's cup of tea. Everyone's built different, but you may or may not find um, any value in what I have to say. But since I've been able to cross what I felt was like the darkest bridge or tunnel of my life, and have come out on the other side, I feel like I have some things that I want to share that I wish I had someone telling me when I was going through the darkest periods of my life. So, why don't I feel worthy? Um, One of the first things that comes to mind for me is that feelings of worth, a heavy feeling like not feeling worthy, um, of of good friends, a good relationship, someone who treats you well, of good things in life, of a job that pays you well, of just a good life. That doesn't happen overnight. This kind of feeling is the result of habitual, consistent ways of living, most importantly, ways of thinking. The way that you have thought for so long has sort of culminated to a point now in your life where you feel as though this is sort of the norm. It's just the way things are. This is how you see things. And actually, because you've thought of this, your life and yourself in this way for so long, it's actually become your reality. Um, I was in the same boat for many years. I had many points of negative self-talk, and it manifested differently in different aspects of my life. Um, but for a while, for me, I thought that I was the source of disappointment in my family. Not even because they would say that oftentimes, but just because I felt, I had gone through these mental gymnastics of convincing myself that I was was a disappointment for my family because I didn't have a high-paying job. I didn't make use of my expensive degree. My parents are, immigrants who came here and worked very, very, very hard to make a life. And I, for many years, was kind of lost and didn't really make use of the hardship that they went through in terms of channeling that into my career and being really, really successful. I just didn't know how to manifest that in the right way. So that being said, for a while I just went too hard and over obsessed over career and academics, and I had no self-care or sort of personal relationship, like time for personal relationships, because I was so hard on myself. I thought it was an all or nothing game. But then I burnt out so bad that I just couldn't do any of that stuff that I wanted to do. But I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but as you can see, it wasn't one particular instance or incident that made me wake up feeling like, oh my gosh, I am just worthless because I did this specific thing or someone said this specific thing. No, it's the result of consistent patterns in your life, from what you do to how you think, but most importantly to how you think. The world is designed, in my opinion, to make us be critical of ourselves. Especially here in Western society, in the capitalist world, we're always made to feel like we are lacking, like there's shortage, like we have to aspire to something better, bigger, greater, more polished. And that's the trap that most of us fall into, if even to some small degree. But the byproduct of that is that it makes us feel like we are just not good enough, and it can manifest in really, really, really damaging ways. Like, we have so much negative self-talk. We don't believe, even when people tell us of our good qualities, or people compliment us, or great people come into our life, we somehow don't believe that we're worthy of it. Like, even if we have people telling us, I used to think that sometimes when people were really nice to me, or like that they were just trying to make me feel good, that deep down they really knew that I was a depressed person and they were just saying these things so I would feel better. In hindsight, I know that it's ridiculous, because not a random person is going to have the foresight to know that you're depressed and all that, just saying all these nice things to you and about you and what they like about you, or wanting to be your friend out of pity. Like, very few people will stick around in your life for a long time just out of pity. That's just not how it works. But yeah, this is the way that I thought. And I lived like this for years. It's been years since I've felt this way, but it was definitely a prolonged period of my life. So that's one thing: habituated action, thought patterns. And maybe, things did happen in your life or your childhood that gives you reason to have low self-esteem. Like, maybe your family, your parents, your friends from childhood, or peers really, were abusive in some sort of way, or bullied you, or, you just had a toxic environment that gave you, like, not a great starting point. But if you're an adult and you now have the choice to choose who you want to surround yourself with, that you don't have to be subjected to toxic people as you were in your youth to an extent, or at least limit the interactions you have with them, or have the better tools to compartmentalize and not take things personally, you really, really have the power. You have the power to come out of this. And I'll get to that in a bit, about what to do about feelings of worthlessness. But I first want to kind of flesh out, why don't we feel worthy? Why do we feel worthless? Another topic that, is probably gets to maybe sort of the real root of where this kind of feeling not only stems from, but why it persists, is that we feel we have actually done things in our lives, or haven't done things that make us feel like, oh, we deserve this. We feel like we've done things that are so despicable or regrettable. And some of us have, like some of us, master criminals, rapists, whatever, the extreme end, really have done things that should, in my opinion, make you feel worthless. But even that, I guess some hyper-spiritual people might argue wouldn't be the right way to go about it. But anyway, if you are not on that extreme, have not committed a crime of that, grandiosity, have not intentionally harmed anyone in that extent, I think for many of us, myself included, is that we mentally exaggerate exactly how harmful our actions were to another. For example, I know this doesn't apply to me, but I know that in a lot of the Indian community, and a lot of the Indian families that I know, some of the kids that I know, had this pressure growing up to become doctors, because it's considered very prestigious in our community. It's considered, just the kind of peak of career path, what you can choose to really kind of pay your parents back for making the sacrifices and struggles they made for you to be here. For a lot of kids who haven't gone down that path of pursuing medicine, or even another equally conventionally prestigious path, I find that many of them at some point dealt with feelings of extreme worthlessness, because they felt that they let their parents down, they let their families down. And, to someone who's not rooted in the community and the experiences directly, it might not seem as intense. But there are people who are harming themselves, contemplating suicide over, being rejected from medical school and things like that. So it's very, very serious, and it's all based on the premise that our entire existence and worth is contingent on this one career path out of thousands, if not millions, in the world. And that our parents will only love us and will only feel like we were worthwhile if we pursue this, Think about that. Think about that in the sense of, if you were a parent and your child decided not to pursue medicine and pursue something else, or maybe were even, was lost for a while, didn't know what to do career-wise or job-wise, and kind of was floating around and not really being able to decide on a real concrete trajectory, although you might feel a little sense of concern, or maybe stress for your child, you would not feel like they're shattering your entire life and hopes and dreams. And if you do feel that way, I strongly recommend that you seek professional help. And I'm not saying that jokingly, I'm saying that seriously. That if you're putting all your life's worth into your one child or children, that's a whole different issue. But for most people, I can imagine that, you wouldn't want your child to feel this way. All that said is that these kids' parents are fine. Of course, they might have this heightened sense of pride and, self-esteem and maybe righteousness and sense of boasting and whatever, if they can say, oh my gosh, my daughter or son is a doctor, look at them, look at how much money they're making, look at how smart they are. Of course that's going to be something that's going to cause a great deal of excitement and pride in a parent. But that's the opposite of that, or the absence of that achievement doesn't mean that it means shame and misery. Again, it's all in the mind. It's mentally constructed. Not only in the person who feels the shame, but in the person who feels like someone else has let them down, the parent who feels like, oh, my kid or whatever has let me down. I don't want to go, talk about the Indian community too much, because I don't know how much it applies to whoever's going to be watching this. But that's just kind of a personal anecdote, that I've seen happen in my community. And yeah, so no one person holds that much power to harm that another person, if you get what I'm saying, with the exception of the extremes, of course, of being abusive, of being controlling, all that stuff. But no one person has the power to, make someone else feel horrible. You have to give credit to an individual. We have our own ability to take care of ourselves mentally, physically. We shouldn't give up all that power to another, whether it's your child or spouse, to determine how we feel. So yeah, if you feel worthless because you feel you've done something that's regrettable or causing shame to your family, you have to get at the root of that, kind of tackle that head on, For me, for a while, even though I was never on that doctor path, I never had the test scores or anything, or even early on or even remote passion for anything medical or scientific, to ever have that even be a possibility put on me or pressure put on me. Thank God. I was always creatively inclined, or more, into English and history and all that. So yeah. But I still felt that pressure when I thought, okay, so if I'm not a doctor, means I have to be a really badass journalist, or I have to be a really successful in another thing. For a while, for me, it was getting a PhD and becoming a sociologist, and I always thought, oh, at least it's not a doctor or all that other stuff. But it was such an insane expectation to put on myself that I should never have put that on myself. And, I had to learn the hard way. For years, I felt worthless because I dropped out of my graduate program, sociology graduate program, without even telling my parents. They found out the worst way. They saw a letter in my room that I had hidden. Oh, it was just so bad, so bad. I felt like I had wasted so much money. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. Just absolutely abysmal. But the thing is, I should never have gone into my graduate program, because I wasn't doing it for myself. I was doing it because I thought that's the way to not let my family down. Turns out, by forcing myself to do this and go through something horrendous, the demands of graduate school, I just couldn't keep up with it. It was too mentally draining at a time when I was already depressed. It was just not something that made sense for me on any level. yes, I love being an intellectual, I love writing, I love critical thinking, all those things. But being in graduate program wasn't the only way to do that. But at the time, I thought it was. And I ended up doing more harm by forcing all these things into my life than just accepting who I was at that moment and not having all this negative self-talk. So, learned the hard way, sadly, by wasting thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on grad school, but I learned nonetheless, and I finally kind of even overcome my guilt and feeling of worthlessness about dropping out of graduate school. I thought it would last forever. I thought that I would feel like a disappointment forever. And I was ashamed to even talk about it to people who were suddenly probably thinking, why isn't she in school anymore? Did she finish her degree? Like, what happened? you know? Um, I feel so much better equipped to handle talking about it now. But it was a long journey to get here, so that's another part of it, is back to the whole habituated action thought patterns. It's not going to happen overnight. There's no one quick fix. It's consistent actions. And right before I get to that part, just one more thing about why you don't feel worthy. Just kind of to supplement the two main things I discussed. Feeling like we did things that are regrettable and shame-worthy. And then also just our habitual thought patterns that we're not even aware of since when we were little, or like since God knows when. We're just kind of almost on a subconscious level thinking these negative things or self-defeating things without even realizing that they're negative things. Like, we just think, oh, it's normal to think this way. This is how I've felt forever. This is how people think. This is how everyone around me thinks. Like, what's so wrong with this? Turns out there's a lot of things wrong with it, and it explains a lot of why you feel this bad about yourself. It's in your head. I'm not calling you crazy. I'm saying it's in your head, therefore it's not real. Or it has the potential to be something else because you can change the alchemy of it. Like, you don't have to stick with this reality. You can change your thoughts. You can change what you're thinking every single day to change your outcome of how you view yourself. So why don't I feel worthy? A few other things, again, like I said, is that you're surrounding yourself with people who reinforce your feelings of worthlessness. Again, maybe these people have been in your life for years, decades, maybe even a few weeks or months, but they are contributing to your feelings of worthlessness by maybe being outright horrible to you, verbally abusive, physically abusive, saying things that make you feel less than good. And it's exactly that. It can be sometimes subtle jabs. It doesn't have to be this vicious thing. People think like, people who bring you down are only like these monsters, No, I actually find that people who, take smaller jabs at you, or sometimes like aren't as outright mean to you or horrible to you, actually sometimes are more toxic because you have a hard time figuring out what about your relationship is actually bringing you down. For example, sometimes, you could have someone in your life where you just made the biggest amazing accomplishment in your life. Like, let's say you published a book and you sold 200 copies. You feel great about yourself. Like, you feel so proud, but maybe it's hypothetical. I'm not, I did publish a book and sold 200 copies, but this is actually not pertaining to me necessarily. But your boyfriend or your spouse or your best friend says nothing about it. They don't, when they see you've made this achievement or even published a book, they don't say congratulations or I'm so proud of you. They don't actually say anything at all. It's as if nothing actually really even happened in your life, that's a way for you to be brought down and to be made to feel worthless. Silence. Silence alone. So be careful of that and watch out for that, because that's one of those things a lot of people kind of overlook, you know? Of course, you're not going to have everyone in your life a constant cheerleader, like be like, "Oh my God, you're amazing, you're amazing." That's not realistic. But you also want people in your life who are really excited for you and who support you, who consider your wins like their own wins, you know? Um, you need those people, you know? You really, really need those people to feel whole and good. You don't want people around you who are just silent, who might even be jealous of you, who might, but not outright say it, who might, you know, whatever it is. Be careful of the people that are around you, because they likely are contributing to your feelings of worthlessness. And yeah. And then we have, you know, those life events that aren't habituated. Some drastic thing happens, like you just lost your job, or you just broke up, or you know, something sudden happened, you know, like, or you suddenly lost a family member to an illness. Just something drastic and sudden, maybe you didn't see coming. And sorry, I have like a congestion issue right now. And you just feel blindsided. Like, how couldn't I have, like, how did I not see this coming? I feel so bad about myself. I could have prevented this, or I should have spent more time with my loved one before they passed away, or I should have done more to make sure that I didn't lose my job, or all these thoughts, instead of accepting the situation as it is. Because chances are that all these negative thoughts are not going to help the situation even an ounce. In fact, they're going to make it 10 times worse. If you lose a job and you spent the next 10 weeks dwelling on why you lost this job, how effective is that going to be in preparing you for the next job, or starting your own business, your own creative endeavor, anything, you know, putting you onto the next path? It's not going to be effective at all, actually, because you're still so caught up in the past. Okay, so that's all I want to say for why don't I feel worthy. These are some of the basic points I want to make. I'm sure I can do another video on discussing more of that, and I think I will do that, but I want to quickly address what to do about it. I think I already got kind of addressed a little bit of this in each of the points I made, but I want to kind of flesh it out a little bit more. So what to do about your feelings of worthlessness. If you are going through something sudden and you're generally not a very pessimistic person, or someone that thinks negatively or feeling depressed all the time, and some drastic thing happened and now you're just caught in a whirlwind where you feel like you're on a downward spiral suddenly, maybe a couple things happen at once, or 3 or 4 things happen at once, you feel like you know, just it's just one on top of the other and you feel like you're just drowning. At that point, I would say you need to have very concrete action steps. You know, lean on your friends, your family for support. Do not be ashamed to lean on your friends and family for support. Ask for help, be honest, be transparent about your situation. That actually shows more strength, counterintuitive to what many people believe. Because if this is the exception, that you are feeling worthless for a specific reason or something happened, then people likely know that you are well equipped to come out of it, and they will want to do so much to help you. Because this isn't the norm for you, you know? Like, this isn't who you are every day. You're not someone that's constantly drowning in negative self-talk, you know? Be transparent. And also, something I've learned from other, you know, people I follow who have helped me is to write down a list of what you're grateful for. In the morning and at night, I obviously definitely don't do this twice a day, even every day. But I've tried to learn to do like a mental list of like what I'm grateful for. So a few months ago, I went through a pretty bad breakup, and um, in my last video, I talk about, okay, so that obviously the breakup was terrible. I felt betrayed, all this stuff I don't need to get into right now. But the you know, counter sort of effect of it is that, or the counterbalancing way of looking at it is, I'm so thankful that this breakup didn't happen or this betrayal didn't happen with my ex while I was married to him or while I had kids, and I'm so glad that I still have my passions and I haven't let go of the things that mean a lot to me just for the sake of keeping my relationship intact. Like, I'm so grateful for those things. I'm so grateful I still have my other relationships. I still have my friends. I still have my family. I lost one relationship, but this is a good time to strengthen all my other relationships. And most importantly, look at all the time that I have for myself now. You know, I'm so grateful I have more time for myself now that I have all this time away from the relationship that I was spending on the relationship. Or if you just, maybe, lost a family member, which is really hard. I cannot minimize the pain of that at all. But, instead of having negative self-talk, you maybe about how you could have prevented it, or how you could have been a better loved one, because that's not going to do anything good. How you can maybe reflect on all the beautiful moments of this person's life and your relationship with them. Create some sort of art or music or poetry inspired by this person and the life they led, and share it with the world as a way to preserve their essence, their livelihood longer, rather than spreading all this negativity after they left. You could also think, okay, well, if a family member died of a particular illness, a health problem, that it could make you think like about how to raise awareness about that health problem, how others can prevent it, how you can, take care of yourself better. All these things, of course, you're not grateful. Like, I'm not saying you should ever be grateful for someone's death. I'm saying you can find things that you can still be grateful for in spite of it, is what I'm saying. So yeah. So that's one thing. And then, other ways to go about increasing your feelings of self-worth is to do positive, like loving things for yourself, so you kind of restore your sense of worthiness again. Like really, really investing in yourself and your health, your job, your career, to make sure like, you're doing something that actually is fulfilling, that you're finding meaning in, that, that isn't draining you, because that's also an act of self-love. Sticking around in a job that's making you miserable is not very self-loving. And some people might say, oh, I have to do this job, otherwise, I'm going to be on the streets. Maybe in the rare exceptions that's true in the Western world. Maybe not the rare exceptions. It's actually true for quite a few people in the Western world. But, we live in a world now where we have so many different kinds of work models and work dynamics. We can do so many different things. A lot of people work for themselves, start their own businesses. teach, so many different things, ways of taking matters into your own hands, as opposed to being at effect to another entity or a person that is not a good influence on you and is leaving you feeling miserable and belittled every day. So investing in that, and very, 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 very closely linked to the whole career thing, and I don't know why I didn't mention this before, because I think it should have been mentioned before, is really thinking of your life at least one part of your life in a way that you can be like a craftsman, like someone who's constantly refining their skills, bettering themselves in that arena. Someone who's in a field or a realm of craft or work, where there's always room to grow, learn more, be better, maybe get to a point where you can teach and mentor. One of those things for me is writing. I have been a student of writing for like over 2 decades now, and I've wanted to be a writer for so, 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 so long. Like since I was like 10, 11. I'm 26 now, 27. Um, and I'm finally a writer. I am not able to do it at a level where I can do it full time as a career, but I am able to do things like, coach people on writing, teach people writing, write, a book, write poetry. And one of the reasons I feel fulfilled by writing is because it's a constant challenge. It's not a job or a task where I feel like, oh, once I learn it, and it's flat from there. I will be 70 years old and still trying to refine my skills as a writer, as a poet. And that's part of what leads to feelings of self-worth, is like mastering a skill, having new levels of achieving more in that field, in that craft. People who feel a sense of accomplishment and power oftentimes have something that they have that's like that. They're not working a dead-end job, or a job where they don't feel like they're pushed to challenge themselves. Sometimes people who do feel worthless because they're doing work that could be done by anybody, or done by a lot of people, and there's no real sense of achievement after having completed that work besides just this random paycheck that feels like whatever, versus when you're doing something, and it doesn't, like I said, for me, it's not a full-time job. Like my writing makes me like point, like, at some moments it was like 10 or 15% of my income, or now it's like less. I'm not putting the expectation of my whole life financial livelihood on my passion and my craft, but I'm finding ways to make it a really big part of my life despite it all, because that's the field in which I want to grow, become a master, become someone who is able to reach a level of skill that just become one of the best. There's always, 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 always more to learn. You could be like an athlete, you can be, a chef, you could be, even you could be a lawyer and you'd be refining your skills in the legal field. You can be, I mean, anything, honestly, anything. And there's so many different ways to go about it. You can constantly be learning, and I would say that's one of those things where you see the returns over time. Hopping on that wagon of finding that thing for you. It doesn't have to be this like dying passion either. It could be something that you just really like and you want to grow in. Maybe it's your yoga class. Maybe I don't know, like, uh, I don't know. I'm at a loss. I don't know why. There's a million things, but having something where you feel like you can consistently grow better yourself, become someone that like is seen over the course of decades, as someone who can speak about this or be paid to speak about this or be, that people come to for advice about this subject. That's a really amazing feeling. It's like a journey, like a long journey that has a lot of reward. Not necessarily financial, although that is sometimes a byproduct of that. So that's a big one. Getting onto a path where you feel like you can grow, refine your skills, like that will bring you up. Even the days that you feel like you had a loss and no one read your book, it's gonna fuel this passion to write better, like write a better book, like learn what you did wrong so you can do something else better next time. That's a big, 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 big way to increase your sense of self-worth, without being entirely dependent on that either. And then, I said, the final point I'll make is like the positive self-talk, the self-love, doing nice things for yourself every day, working out, eating well, eating foods that are gonna give you like the ability to focus throughout the day. I drink matcha tea, ginger tea. I take, spirulina. I try to do one vegan meal a day. I'm a vegetarian. I don't try to eat a lot of like greasy, heavy foods. It's really good for my body, for my mental clarity. I try to, do physical activity every day. I try to do a mile running every day and do a little bit of yoga. Whatever I can. I don't overexert myself. I don't hold myself up to this grand, list of things, but just things slowly, 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 slowly help you. Oh, another big thing. And I'll end with this because I think I can just go on forever. One big thing that has helped me a lot recently is minimizing my time on social media. Because, as I'm sure many of you have heard, it is a really big distraction and a way to kind of leave you comparing yourself with others and what others are doing and what you don't have and what you could have and where you could be. And it is not good. It takes away the focus from your own life. It leaves you feeling like you're lacking, that other people are having more fun, that other people are more successful, when all they're doing is just showing you their highlight reels. I am huge on Instagram. I love Instagram as a way to share my creative work. So I'm not against social media at all. But lately I've completely minimized my time on Facebook, and I go on it maybe once a day at the end of the day on my desktop, not on my phone anymore. Oh, and it's amazing. I feel so much lighter. I'm like not getting into like feuds with people about politics, and I'm not looking at what vacations people are on and what people did on Valentine's Day with their boyfriend or girlfriend while I'm single. It's just not happening anymore. So that has been really helpful in making me feel more empowered and strengthened and just focusing on my life. Like, try to just rewire your brain. Like, try to rewire your thoughts, rewire your whole chemical structure by what you're eating. Eat avocados, like eat nuts, walnuts. You don't have to completely cut out like your love for pizza or anything. I love that stuff. But just eat these foods as well, and slowly you won't want to eat as much pizza, I promise you. This is the girl who like loves Taco Bell. Like, I know it's like the craving for fast food, but once you eat well, once you take care of yourself, you're not gonna want to do things that are bringing you down. You're just naturally gonna gravitate away from that. It's just not gonna happen. So yeah, I've already done way too much talking, and I don't know how helpful this is gonna be for anyone out there, but just some what has now felt like really unorganized thoughts on why don't I feel worthy? Why do feelings of um, worthlessness arise? And also, what to do about feelings of worthlessness. I mean, this is like, I think so many countless spiritual people have like spent years and lifetimes and many books answering these questions and talking about these topics. So I'm just only getting to it in 45 minutes. So it's a very, 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 just like a bare scratch on the surface. But it's a starting point, and we all need starting points, just like I needed one when I was 21 and very, 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 very depressed, felt worthless. I would spend all my days sitting on the couch, sleeping on the couch. There were days I didn't shower for days at a time. I was lost so much weight. I was severely underweight. People thought I was anorexic. It was bad. It was really, really bad. Oh gosh, and I really wish I had this video of me talking to my younger self and kind of telling her this is what you need to do to come out of this, because I know you have been through so much, but I want to help you. Alright, thank you for watching, and I can't wait to put out another video on a different topic. Bye.